You're rocking with the voice of Town View. We put our spin on trending topics and school news. Thought-provoking, insightful, we speak the truth. We do it for all ages, not just for the youth. Listen close, you might learn something. Or laugh so hard, you split your side of something. Live stream a podcast. Whenever you tune in, it's sure to be a blast. Let's be honest, you don't want to miss that. Content so real, you're going to want to run it back. We keep you entertained while making an impact. Want foreign announcements? Well, this is not that. Sports, pop, culture, political. Whatever you like, we got you covered, bro. It's a movement more than just a show. It's KSBM Radio.
Come closer to the music.
Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview. I am Cammie, and I'm here with
Chewy,
Violet.
And this is our first Friday of the year. And I am pleased to introduce our guest, Crystal Brown-Tatum. Can we give, a clap? So Crystal Brown-Tatum, she is a highly accomplished professional in the world of human resources and a dynamic entrepreneur. Miss Crystal's journey from an honors college graduate to a TikTok sensation and the founder of Crystal Clear Communications and Black Girl HR promises to inspire and inform our students about putting their best foot forward in their career path.
All right, to start off the interview, Miss Crystal, can you share a bit about your upbringing in San Antonio, Texas, and how it influenced your values and career aspirations?
Yes, I can. I grew up an Air Force brat. My father retired from the Air Force, and growing up in San Antonio is very diverse. San Antonio tiene muchas personas que hablan en español. Es muy importante que viven in Texas. So I grew up with a heavy Mexican influence. I would say that my values were shaped by my parents. They both worked. My mother was a registered nurse. My father, after he retired, he was a doctor. So growing up with parents that instilled education and respect really shaped who I am as a person and how I conduct myself in the workplace.
So how did your family and childhood experiences impact your decision to pursue a degree in mass communications?
I was always a talkative kid. Unfortunately, I was always in the principal's office. So I challenged authority. I talked a lot. And now as an adult, I get paid to talk. I get paid to challenge authority. So yeah, I guess the talkative kid made a career out of talking.
So you said that you were in the principal's office a lot. So was there like any teacher or maybe mentor that really just kind of help you move to your path of where you are now?
That is a great question. Mr. Paul Fiola, he was my 7th grade resource teacher, and resource was for students who had emotional development or behavioral issues. And because of some things that happened in my childhood, I was placed in resource. I lost a brother when I was 8 years old. He was killed in a hit and run. And of course, that impacts you as a student. You're going to have outbursts and you're going to be angry. Mr. Fiola was the first teacher that really believed in me. And under his wing, my grades improved, my behavior improved. Sadly, he passed away about 1.5 years ago, but from 7th grade all the way through my late 40s, he and I continued to have a student-teacher relationship, meaning we exchanged Christmas cards. He not watched me become a mother, but he saw me become a wife and a mother. So one teacher really can make a difference in a student's life.
Are there any opportunities or challenges you came across during your high school experience?
Oh, absolutely. High school in the 90s is different than, your generation's high school. I would say some things remain the same. I struggled with self-esteem. I was the only Black cheerleader. And so there's those dynamics when you're different. Mm-hmm. My father was injured. He had a spinal cord injury my sophomore year, and he was a quadriplegic. Mm-hmm. That's someone who's paralyzed from the neck down. And so having a father become disabled that was not only traumatic, but it made me more sensitive to people that have disabilities. So I would say for me, high school was a journey of self-acceptance and of accepting differences in others. Great question. Thank you.
You mentioned being an honors college graduate. What role did your education play in your professional development?
That's a great question. So I became pregnant my freshman year of college, and everyone told me that I wouldn't finish. I took a year off. I came back and graduated number 2 in my class. And I wanted to graduate from the honors college to show people, the more people told me I wouldn't finish because I had a baby, the more I wanted to finish. And the honors college allowed me to do what's called an honors thesis. It's where you write a 24-page research paper. And I explored a topic that no one had ever done before. It was on rap music. And I remember when I presented the topic of, I want to research how heavy gangster rap music and the impact it has on the women's movement, because a lot of rap lyrics are degrading to women. And the panel initially was like, no, that's not a scholarly topic. But I was able to complete my research, and it was featured on Larry King. Michael Eric Dyson is a well-known he's a speaker across the US, very well known. He actually was on my panel. And so I got national attention for that thesis because no student at the time was exploring rap music.
Wow, that's actually really amazing, because I think rap music has such a significant part of like why men talk to women the way they do.
I do want to point out my research did show that heavy metal and country music also have the same incidence of drug use and violence against women too. So I guess I should clarify, while gangster rap music gets that bad rap, other genres of music also promote some of the same themes we see in rap music.
Yes. So speaking of exploring a topic, so you did speak a little Spanish.
I did.
So did that like help in any way, or when did you learn it?
So growing up in San Antonio, most of my peer group, their parents spoke Spanish. And so my nickname is Candy. They always called me Dulce. And so San Antonio, just the demographics alone, it's a heavy Spanish speaking community. I love the Spanish culture. I love Mexican culture, to be specific, because Spanish, that could encompass a lot of things. So my uncle married a Mexican woman, and a lot of my cousins are from Mexico. And so, just hearing Spanish, learning the customs, appreciating the food, the culture, that's very important to me. On the professional side, a significant amount of my workforce, Spanish is their first language. And while we, want people to speak English as a business language, because we're FDA regulated, so a lot of our rules and regulations, they're only given in English. It's very important to be able to communicate with people. When an employee is telling me a very personal or an emotional story, I call in my assistant who's bilingual, because I notice they're able to convey their feelings better in their native language instead of trying to piece together English to tell me a story. Why would I make them do that? I want them to be as involved and emotional as they can be. And my assistant, Judy, helps me translate.
Oh, that's really considerate.
Absolutely. That's part of equity and inclusion, not making people just because, and really at the end of the day, someone who speaks 2 languages, they are better than me in that regard. And so it really bothers me when people say, speak English. No, you learn a second language. This is someone who's not only mastered their language, they also are pretty good at English. So they're speaking 2 languages while you're speaking 1. So you learn another language.
Someone had to say it.
Because you can speak Spanish and English.
Awesome. Are you bilingual?
Yeah.
That is such a marketable skill. When you get ready to, if you're not in the workforce already, the fact that you are bilingual, you might be trilingual. I've met a young lady from Prairie View A&M. She spoke 5 languages. And so that was really impressive to the company. Arabic was one. So I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Could you, so moving on, could you tell us about your journey from being a mass communications graduate to your current role as the Human Resources Director of Sovereign
Pharmaceuticals.
Pharmaceuticals.
Yes. So believe it or not, mass communications and human resources, there's a lot of skills that I was able to transfer. Being able to persuade, being a confident public speaker, human resources really is the management function of an organization that kind of acts as a buffer and liaison between the company and the employee. So if you can't build trust, if you can't persuade, you're not going to get buy-in from employees when it comes to policies, when it comes to benefits, when it comes to employee engagement. And I started my career in radio broadcast. I was a news producer. At the time, I was a single mom, so the hours didn't really fit. I worked 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. So while most people are in bed asleep, I was on the road driving to work at 1:30 in the morning, getting off at 10 in the morning. So I did that for about 3 months. It just wasn't conducive to a single mom's lifestyle. There were some really emotional news stories that I had to cover that just broke me down emotionally, particularly TWA Flight 800. I'll never forget that because a woman that I knew, her name was Pam Lynchner, her and her 2 daughters, they all 3 died on that plane crash. And I remember being asked to try to reach out to her husband to get a quote. And I really could not do that. This is someone who just lost their wife and their 2 little girls, and you want me to get him on the phone to do an interview. So there was just some things fundamentally that didn't agree with me. So I entered the workforce, and I wasn't always in human resources. Believe it or not, it was because of bad human resource professionals that I decided I wanted to enter the field so I could make a difference.
So regarding, you know how you have to build the trust and being in, like in a community within with your employees. How do you? What are some ways that you put that to use and like try to create the engagement?
Also, these are excellent questions, man. I think the first thing is when you're building trust is to listen. A lot of people listen to respond. The more quickly I build trust with employees, the more quickly I can identify opportunities for the company. Do we need to pay somebody more? Do we need to give someone time off? Do we need to fire a manager? So building that trust quickly is really important. And also being action oriented. I had an employee last week. I was like, what's wrong? You don't give me that same energy. And she was like, well, I came to you about something and you never followed up. And she was right. It was my oversight. I forgot, but it was a good reminder to me, do what you say. Because people remember that. If I say I'm going to get back to you and I don't, you're never going to come to me again with a problem or a concern.
That is very true. That comes for friends also, because I trust you more.
It does. No, it's true. Be accountable. That was one of my things I wanted to make sure you all understood. If you say you're going to do something, you really need to do it.
That's kind of like the quote where they're like, your word is really the only thing you have.
Yeah.
Because if you say it, you got to do it now.
So if you're my age, you say word is bond. That's like an old cliche that people used to use in the 80s and 90s, but your word is your bond.
So we've been saying that you're HR, you're HR. And of course, everyone knows HR. Well, I'm not going to assume everyone knows, but HR means human resources. But we really haven't asked what that comes with or what it really is.
That's a great question. You're right. In school, no one studies HR or human resources. And when you hear HR, I'm going to say 9 out of 10 people probably hate HR because they focus on HR disciplines and fires. But we also do recruiting, onboarding, compensation, benefits, compliance. So to put it in terms that would be easy for students who may not be in a corporate setting, human resources is the management function that we are responsible for the employee experience. So from the moment you apply for a job, through your interview, through your training, through your day-to-day, making sure that your workspace is ergonomical, making sure that you're safe, making sure that you can provide for your family, making sure that you have benefits. Now, I'll say for me and my team, there's 3 of us, employee well-being is one of our top priorities. And what that means is we ask about your mental health. We ask about your family. Do you need time off from work? We've brought fitness classes into the workplace. We brought Beyonce trap classes into the workplace. So we brought food trucks to the work site. We make sure that employees have what I like to call creature comforts, because you spend a lot of time at work. And if you're miserable because your manager doesn't listen to you, if we don't teach you how to resolve conflict, you're constantly fighting with your coworkers. We want work to be a safe place, but we want it to be a place where you come, you make money, but you also enjoy it. That's how I run my HR department.
Has there been any challenges you faced while managing HR?
Absolutely. I think the worst part of HR is when you have to terminate someone. This might be a person that you like. So I make sure, before people do lose their jobs, unless it's a layoff, that's what coaching is for. Performance management is also a human resource function. And as an employee, you have to be coachable. So when you make a mistake, be open to it. There's going to be someone that says, hey, Crystal, yesterday you did this. This is not how we do things. This is a policy. That is how you demonstrate character. It's okay to say, you know what? Thank you for bringing that to my attention. You're right. Another challenge is people coming to work on time or people coming to work at all. So I did roll out an attendance policy, and that makes it fair because prior to doing that, managers could kind of discretionary say, oh, hey, she was late. But if they like the person, they're not going to say, oh, it's okay. She's late. It's okay. No, it's not okay. We need to have a policy so that everyone is treated fairly. And so I think to answer your question, the challenges are attendance and termination. Like there's a downside of human resources. But if you do it and allow people to keep their dignity, I think that makes the process more respectable.
So you said that you help make sure that people feel comfortable in the work environment, but who helps you feel comfortable? Like who makes sure that you're liking what you do or
Wow. I'm responsible for that because no one looks out for me. That's a great question. I'm really big on self-care. My team does, we do team building. We do spa days occasionally, but I take ownership of my own well-being and care because I have found that no one's going to do that better than me.
So we know that you have participated in pageants.
Yes.
So how has that shaped your career path, being involved in that?
So when I first got out of college and I did interviews, being a pageant finalist really opened a lot of doors for me. Now women are more conscious, like we're not using pageants and beauty to get jobs. I don't think that should be the pathway for anything. But being a pageant winner, your confidence is what's going to get you in the door. The camaraderie that you make, you're going to meet amazing fellow pageant contestants. And I'm sorry, but when you see a pageant, those young ladies that participate, they are the creme de la creme. They are the top. They work hard. They've worked hard in fitness and talent. They typically have good grades. They're community oriented. So these are young women that are at the top of their game. And if you can network amongst that, what a great network you're going to have.
Have you faced any, well, I know that you said that you had opportunities that you came along as being a finalist, but I know that I keep asking challenges, but I really want to get to know what led you to come here for where you're at. So are there any challenges that you faced as being a pageant?
Absolutely. Being an African-American woman, always feeling less beautiful. At the time, I had an eating disorder because I was really thin, and the judges would always tell me I need to lose more weight, but I was really thin. And the judge that was so kind to me, her name was Mama Ninfa. She owned these restaurants, Ninfa's, which is it's a big restaurant chain. She gave me my highest scores in swimsuit. And I remember thinking, she gets me, she appreciates these hips and thighs. But the challenges were, also my mom was a single mom. So, we really didn't have the money for $1,000 pageant gowns. My mom I always look nice, but we would thrift for some of my pageant clothes. So I'd say I had some economic challenges. And then I had, being Black, at the time, a lot of Black women were not winning pageants. It wasn't until Vanessa Williams won in September of 1984 that we even saw a Black Miss America. So I'd say the self-esteem of being a Black girl with a single mom in pageants definitely didn't have the dance classes, didn't have the vocal lessons that other girls can afford. I mean, some girls spent $3,000 to $4,000 on a gown, and that was just not an option for me.
So, I really like that you put that insight into pageants, because like I feel like a lot of girls look at pageants like, oh, I would just really be down on myself the whole time, and I just wouldn't. It just seems like it's a pretty thing, but the fact that you like bring up the talents or skills that you get from that, like community grade stuff like that, that's amazing.
Interview is 40%. In the Miss America system, I just want to point that out. In the Miss USA system, it's a third. So a girl can be, beautiful all day long, but if she can't get through that interview and tough questions like what you all are posing at me, and that's another skill you get from pageants, you're able to give those answers quickly. But if she can't be intelligent and have a conversation, she's not going to score well.
Okay. So
I have a question real quick. Maybe for the people out there, mostly like the boys that don't know what like the idea of a pageant is. Can you like describe
Thank you.
what it is?
What a great question. So typically a pageant is a competition, and I know things are changing. So for the sake of the conversation, I am going to say girls, but the trends are changing where LGBTQIA can participate. But for the sake of your question and my experience, I am going to say girls. They are judged in different categories, from interview to fitness to evening gown. And the best person is crowned the queen, and that means that she has demonstrated excellence or the highest scores in all of those areas. So as a pageant judge, I sit amongst other women and I see that they're kind of old school, like some of them don't give girls high scores if they have tattoos. This is 2023. Girls are going to have tattoos. And if someone, in their interview, if their experience I think they need to give more grace. So if you're looking for the perfect girl, she's not out there. I'm looking for the most authentic girl, and that's usually who gets my highest scores.
So does that count for piercings too?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And hopefully we've had a Miss America that has tattoos. There's been a Miss America competitor that had an amputated leg. So times are changing and the pageants need to get with the times.
So we know that you've been awarded for your community service and activism. Can you share one memorable experience that had a significant impact on you?
Absolutely. I was a lobbyist for several organizations, Planned Parenthood, American Heart Association. I would say probably Gridiron Heroes. I shared with you that my father was a quadriplegic. Gridiron Heroes is a nonprofit for high school athletes who sustain catastrophic spinal cord injuries playing football. I don't know if you know of Corey Bonner, but he is out of Duncanville and he has a nonprofit called Find a Way. Imagine being at a high school football game and you see a player go down and that player never gets up again. And as the clock is ticking, you're thinking, man, he's been down 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You hear the ambulance, you see the family rush to the field. These young men have to learn how to live life again. And so I think that's probably being on the board of Gridiron Heroes. And there's actually been a few cheerleaders that the organization has helped. They've fallen from a pyramid and broke a neck or something. But seeing my father paralyzed and seeing young people that are 17, 18 face that challenge has probably had the biggest impact.
So do you want to go?
As a founder of Crystal Clear Communications and Black Girl HR, what motivated you to start your own business?
If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. So I was laid off from Microsoft and I was devastated. Who would ever think you're going to get laid off from a big company like Microsoft? I had a little girl to feed and I thought, you know what, how am I going to, I need to pay these bills. And so I started doing some freelance work, some marketing for companies. And as I started to grow, as more people reached out to me because they knew the caliber of my work, I was like, oh my gosh, I can work and get paid myself. So I never set out to be an entrepreneur, but life gave me no other choice. I had bills to pay, but I knew I had skills. So I had to force people to pay me for those skills. And then with Black Girl HR, I am shocked at the success I've had. I've had over 7 million views on TikTok. And that's part of why I do what I do. You asked a great question, or one of you did. What is human resources? Most people don't know. Young people don't know what HR is. So I'm showing them through TikTok and through some of the skits what a day in the life of HR looks like.
Could you describe an early career challenge you faced and how you overcame it?
An early career challenge, you know, coming out of, oh gosh, my first job out of college, I had a horrible manager. She left me stranded on a business trip in Corpus Christi. We were at it was terrible. We were at a function and she said I was engaging too much, like I was talking too much at the function. And really the problem was, I think she was a little jealous that everyone who came to our table would talk to me, right? And that's what we're supposed to do. We're at an expo, we have a table. When people walk by, you're supposed to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that lesson taught me two things. Always have a ride home, but really she failed to level set with me, right? So we should have had expectations and maybe I should have followed her lead. But that kind of contradicts one of my things. I always say be authentic. So I was being authentic. I was engaging people. I was talking. But that was a lesson I learned early on, is probably kind of follow your manager's lead.
In your role as the Human Resources Director, what does a typical day look like for you?
They're never the same.
Mm-hmm.
For one, a typical day, making sure that the office is safe. That might be a walkthrough. I greet employees, and it's really important to make eye contact. If you just sit in your office all day, you don't get to see employees. You don't get to know, hey, how are you feeling today? How's your wife? So that's something I do. I do time management. So I'll look to see who's off. Are the time cards correct? I participate in meetings. We talk about things. What are the goals for the week? What the production schedule looks like? So, I mean, there's so many things the HR person does, but I would say probably time management, performance management, safety and compliance are probably what I do every day.
Has there ever been like a bizarre experience that you've like encountered or had to deal with while doing HR?
Yeah, I would say bizarre experience. There's been a lot, things like hit and runs in the parking lot, that employees do things like that. When people fail their drug test, I think, that's always odd because you went to the drug test. You probably knew you were going to fail. Imagine dealing with 100 different people, 100 different personalities, 100 different home environments. No 2 days are ever the same. You can go to school and learn HR law. You can learn how to be a great human resource professional. But if you don't know how to engage people, you're not going to be successful in the role, because someone could be doing a great job and all of a sudden red flags are coming to work late. There's something wrong with them. I guess to your question, identifying someone has an addiction problem. I find that to be not bizarre because life happens, but I'd say that's really uncomfortable when you have to have those discussions with people about drug and or alcohol. And sometimes something as simple as hygiene. It's easy to laugh and giggle, but most recently I found out the reason someone did have a hygiene issue, they were sleeping in their car. And so we had a shower on the site that hadn't been, all it needed was for some valves to be adjusted. So now that employee discreetly can go shower before they start their shift. So I try to turn bizarre things into solutions, because these are still human beings that I'm dealing with.
So to go back on being the founder of Crystal Clear Communications, what What is that foundation like?
Yeah, so Crystal Clear Communications was a public relations firm in Houston. We were one of the top firms in Texas at one time. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I did close the business. I occasionally do some consulting. That was when a company had let's say Samsung, right, Team Android, if they wanted to market this product to the public, they might want to reach a particular demographic. And my specialty was the Hispanic market, the Black market, and women. So companies would engage my firm. There were 5 of us, and we would buy advertising in those demographics. Radio advertising isn't as popular as it used to be, but Crystal Clear Communications would help companies identify their target audience, and then we would buy media. This was before social media. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter. This was, hey, let's design an advertisement for a magazine. Let's buy an advertisement. Let's do a pop-up at T-Mobile and give out things. So it was a marketing and public relations firm.
What are some key qualities and skills you look for when hiring new employees?
Man, key skills and qualities. Bring the energy. Man, it is rough to sit across from someone and interview them and they answer all their questions like this. Like, those are so painful and dry. We can't wait to get that person off of the Zoom. Bring the energy. Like, if you can bring the excitement, you're going to stand out from other candidates. Be confident too. If someone asks you a question in an interview and you either don't know the answer or you don't have the experience, it's okay to say, you know what, Deshaun, I really haven't had that happen, but if I did, this is what I would do. I love when someone doesn't try to lie their way through the interview. I've done enough interviews. I can tell when you're lying, or if you have a canned answer, like, okay, they've said that answer 1,000 times. How you show up for the interview is probably how you show up for the job. So I can't stress this enough. Be on time, be early. People will come to a job interview late. 99.9%, they're not going to get the job. If you can't show up to the interview on time, you're not going to show up to work on time.
On time is late. So
yeah, it is.
Could you share a recent success story or achievement in your current position that you're proud of?
I can. This just happened yesterday. I have an amazing team member, and I've known that this person needs a raise for a long time. And the first 2 times we've gone to the CEO, the answer was not at this time, but I advocated again for this person yesterday, and they got a significant pay increase. And, yeah, I pat myself on the back, but I think the lesson there is keep advocating. Never stop advocating for people. A no today is not going to be a no tomorrow, or a no next week. So what if I had just given up and said, well, because they were doing promotions and I noticed that this person's name wasn't on there. So I put their name on the list and I wrote, okay, this is the 3rd time this person's been overlooked. And that 3rd time was a charm. So I haven't shared it with that person yet, but they're going to be excited. It's a significant pay raise. And I think that'll mean a lot to them that I continue to advocate. And that goes back to do what you say what you do.
Well, congratulations to this person.
Yes, they're most deserving.
So how do you what's your approach to HR? Like, I know you talked about wanting to be able to have a connection with them, but you said there's also like stories that really just are like, wow, like that really just happened. So how do you handle the good with the bad? Like, how do you approach that?
That's a great question. We have a lot of fun at work, and I stress that it's important. Like right now in our break room, it's all Texas Rangers decorated. We have a huge Texas Rangers. We also have a Frenda, so we have that in the. Does everybody know? Well, Frenda for Day of the Dead. We did a Halloween costume contest. We do a Juneteenth meal. I balance it with making sure people have fun too, because your workplace, I don't like when people say we're like a family here. No, because everybody's family isn't functional, right? I wouldn't want my work to be like my family because we don't talk to each other. So be careful if you go to an interview and they're like, we're like a family. Ask them what that means. Ask employers, what is the culture here? I guess that's an important word that I've left out. HR is responsible for the company culture. Do you know what that means? Anybody? What do you think when you hear the company culture? What do you think that means?
How everyone reacts, maybe,
Yep,
and like the environment.
The environment, how people are treated. Is the culture a healthy one? Is it a toxic one? Toxic workplace cultures are when managers yell at people when you're talked to any kind of way.
So we know that as a minority, as a Black woman, it's been hard to get to where you're at. Maybe
It's been more difficult.
It's been a lot more difficult. So as the diversity committee chair, how do you promote diversity and inclusion within your organization?
Absolutely. We make sure that we are inclusive. For example, the holidays are coming up. So it's very normal for people to say, what are we going to do for the Christmas party? Well, what we're going to do for the holiday, we encompass Kwanzaa and Hanukkah. We make sure that we are inclusive to what our employees celebrate, and it's okay if they don't participate. We're also celebrating Diwali next week, which is an Indian festival of light. So we make sure that we have activities that make people feel included. For Ramadan, we provide a prayer space for our Muslim employees. So just having a consciousness that what you do for one may not be what you do for all, and that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, so I did see your TikTok and I followed it. It was actually really funny.
I hope so.
As a TikTok persona, like, do you have a favorite TikTok trend or challenge maybe like that TikTok does?
Oh man, favorite TikTok challenges. I always love the transformation TikToks where a person starts off like looking one way and they end up looking another way. I'm trying to think of one I did recently. There's so many. Some of the ones I like would not be appropriate for me to share with you all. No, I like the transformational TikToks, and I love the just the funny sounds when something goes viral. TikTok during COVID, that's when I first got on TikTok, and I'm telling you, if you want to have a good laugh, I think TikTok is a great outlet. And it's amazing how many people have gone viral on TikTok. It's a great way to market yourself and to market your product.
So, what's a hobby or interest of yours that outside of your career that you're really passionate about?
A hobby. So I love thrifting. I love going to thrift stores. I love vintage clothing. I love anything that's vintage because those pieces have a story. I love gardening. When I was going through breast cancer, gardening was something very peaceful for me. And the life lesson with gardening, when you take care of a plant, when you nurture something else, you subconsciously learn to nurture yourself. So watching something grow, having to tend to it, having to prune it, having to water it. If you can take care of another living thing, you probably are going to learn to take care of yourself. So gardening, thrifting, and I enjoy reading too, recreational books.
So finally, what's one piece of advice or a key takeaway that you'd like to leave to our high school listeners with to help them put their best foot forward in their future career search?
Be memorable. When someone is interviewing for a position, you're probably not the only person they're going to interview. Once you get to the interview, the job is more than 50% yours. Leave an impression. Again, how can you be memorable? You can leave an impact. Maybe you shared a great story. Don't overshare. Don't get too personal in the job interview. But if you can leave a good impression and you brought that energy, if you can offer a solution. So if you're interviewing for a job and you're like, hey, have you guys ever thought about this? If you can impress the person interviewing you with, oh my gosh, this person came to the interview and they already had great ideas and solutions, they're going to remember you and they are probably going to offer you the job. So again, be energetic. That is probably my biggest, because we're already tired, like companies are tired, HR professionals are tired. Your interviewer may have had 5 interviews before you. So they're going to feed off of your energy. And if you can bring that excitement, you'll probably get the job.
So thank you, Miss Crystal, for being
so
here
welcome.
today. We're so excited. Well, we're so excited to meet you, and for asking you these questions and for sharing your inspiring journey and your insights. And to our wonderful audience, thank you for tuning in. We can't wait to see you again on December 1st for our next First Friday. But this is KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview. Once again, I'm Cammie.
I'm Chewy.
I'm Violet.